The House impeachment managers have presented a damning and powerful case against former President Donald Trump this week, including harrowing new scenes of violence from the Capitol riot and never-before-seen security footage of lawmakers being rushed away from the mob. The evidence makes clear that the attack was much worse than we knew, that it could have been even worse than it was, and that it was directed explicitly by Trump, and yet Republicans have made clear they just don't care. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. The thing about Donald Trump is that it's always clear exactly who he has been since day one of his campaign. There was no confusion. It's like when the great Michael Shannon pops up in a movie, you immediately know he's the bad guy. Michael Shannon's not there to rescue puppies or provide sage advice to newlyweds. He's there to steal his father's inheritance or kill Superman. Or maybe he's starring in a Ted Cruz biopic. It's hard to tell. Anyway, everyone knew what Trump was about and what his movement was about. He tapped into something ugly and horrifying at the heart of the modern Republican Party, and the threat of political violence played a central role in that. He repeatedly encouraged his supporters to physically attack protesters and promised to pay their legal bills, which we know now, of course, was a lie. I mean, he can't even pay his own legal bills. He stiffed Rudy, the one lawyer who was willing to defend Trump, by flying cross-country, lying about the election, finding witnesses outside package stores, and holding press conferences, and also, I'm guessing, sleeping at landscaping companies. No need for a cot. I'll just curl up in the mulch. Plus, forget paying for them. Based on his lawyers, would you really want Donald Trump picking yours? I'm starting to think he buys his in bulk at Bob's partially damaged lawyer's discount basement. This one's good on the Constitution, but he craps himself every time he hears the word objection. Can I get that one in a suit that fits? No, everything here is as is. Can I get that one with a briefcase instead of a grocery bag? As is. And not only has it been clear who Trump was from day one, but the people who publicly warned us about him are now his strongest supporters.
Presidents can't just say whatever they want. There are consequences to the words of a president. There are consequences to the words of a presidential candidate as well. You have a candidate in Donald Trump who clearly has used language that appeals to anger, and in some instances has actually said to the crowd, no, let's beat this person up, or let's do this, or let's do that. So it shouldn't surprise us that you see a growing amount of violence at some of his events. There's only one presidential candidate who has violence at their events.
Wait, can I guess who it is? I don't think it's John Kasich, unless he was bullying his supporters into signing up with TD Ameritrade. Certainly couldn't have been Bernie. I'm guessing the closest Bernie comes to violence is using a firm tone when someone mixes up the Bosc and Bartlett pears at the Burlington Food Co-op. You have to keep them separate. One is crisp and the other is sweet. If I see you mixing them up again, I'll have no choice but to gently clap your ears with my adorable mittens. In fact, this is the most violent thing I believe Bernie has ever said in his life.
You know, I eat extra sharp. That's what I eat. They produce great cheese, and they're internationally known for what they do.
That's right. Bernie's cheese is extra sharp, just like his tongue. Anyway, Marco Rubio predicted this 5 years ago. In fact, his vision of what a Trump presidency would be like was eerily accurate.
The great thing about our republic is that we settle our differences in this country at the ballot box, not with guns or bayonets or violence. And you wonder whether we're headed in a different direction today, where we're no longer able or capable of having differences of opinion, but in fact now protests become a license to take violence, to take on your opponents physically. This is what happens when a leading presidential candidate goes around feeding into a narrative of anger and bitterness and frustration. And I think we all need to take a step back and ask ourselves, are we contributing to this?
Well, did you ask yourself, or are you still taking steps back 5 years later, which would put you almost into international waters? So that was Rubio all the way back in 2016. You know, back when he went by Little Marco. He's all grown up now. But in that clip, Marco is basically laying out the same argument Democrats are making today. In fact, he's passionate about it. And yet, despite there being more evidence that Rubio was right then, he and his gang have instead actively chosen to collude with evil and abandon whatever they may have believed about Donald Trump 5 years ago in order to advance their political careers and obtain power, which is how, fast forward 5 years, you get this.
This impeachment trial, let me ask you, how many people are going to get vaccinated because of this impeachment trial? None. How many people are going to find a job because of this impeachment trial? None. How many people are going to be helped to put their kids back in school because of this impeachment trial? None. We are going to spend a week focused on something that is not going to help anyone with the thing that matters in this country the most right now. And that's a terrible thing. That's a waste of our time.
Ask yourself, how many people are going to get superpowers from this impeachment trial? None. How many people are going to fall in love because of this impeachment trial? None. How many people are going to win the McDonald's Monopoly $1 million grand prize by collecting all 4 railroads from containers of large or medium-sized fries or McFlurries or apple pies? None, because you can't get the railroads from the apple pies, even though they're the one of the most popular menu items. You have to buy the McNuggets, the Big Mac, or the filet of fish, even though no one wants the filet of fish because it tastes like deep-fried cat food. And God forbid you leave a filet of fish in your car overnight. That's it for that car. Nobody will even tow it for you. What I'm saying is impeachment is a waste of time. But that's not what impeachment is for. You should be capable of doing 2 or 3 or even, God forbid, 4 things at once. If you really want to help people out, why not sign on to the Democrats' COVID relief bill or a $15 minimum wage? If you care so much about the pandemic or poverty or child hunger, where were you when the previous president was shoveling trillions into the pockets of rich people and corporations and telling everyone COVID would magically disappear so long as they stick a few Tide-to-Go pens up their noses? Why didn't you say anything? Why did you spend 4 years cryptically tweeting Bible quotes like some kind of serial killer or a Southern chicken restaurant? Because you're a boneless fraud who dressed less like a senator and more like an assistant high school basketball coach who gets fired for stealing towels from the locker room. Seriously, dude, did you win that hat in a local radio station contest by calling in and guessing the #1 hit in March 1995? You look like you got your entire outfit from a T-shirt cannon fired by the Phoenix Suns gorilla. Also, does your hat match your chair? Because that's weird. Don't do that. And then this morning, a grown-up Marco decided to wear a big boy suit, go on Fox and Friends, and once again dismiss the trial, the harrowing scenes of violence, and the never-before-seen security footage as a waste of time.
They spent a lot of time yesterday convincing us of what I already knew and believed, and that is that the attack on January 6th was outrageous, criminal, deadly. It could have been far worse. I knew that as well. So I don't think there's any dispute about that. The question is whether impeachment, which is designed clearly to remove someone from office, is the appropriate thing to do when someone's no longer in office. And my answer to that is no.
Oh, man, if only current Marco Rubio could meet 2016 Marco Rubio. It'd be like a sci-fi movie where you have to choose between 2 clones, except they both suck because they, in turn, are clones of a third clone who also sucked. Also, that's actually not what impeachment is designed for. The framers were clear about this. The Constitution explicitly gives the Senate the power to bar someone from ever holding public office again. In fact, as we speak, Trump is also under criminal investigation in Georgia for trying to steal the election. And if you ask me, inciting a violent, seditious mob to storm the Capitol, where they went after the vice president, the Speaker of the House, and members of Congress, and where they injured 140 police officers, sounds like pretty good reason to be barred from public office. I mean, you can get barred from Hooters for not wearing a shirt and shoes. Place is named after bare breasts, and you still have to wear a shirt. We've all seen the damning video footage this week. It's haunting. And yet the Republican Party and its media apparatus aren't just looking the other way metaphorically. They're looking away literally. Rubio, along with a few other GOP senators, reportedly looked down at some papers as the harrowing footage played. There was also previously unseen camera footage of Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Mitt Romney being rushed away from the mob to safety. We learned that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi had to be evacuated from the entire Capitol complex for her safety. At least show some concern for the physical safety of your colleagues. If someone showed me a hostage video of my friend Fred Armisen waving to get my attention because he was being held captive in a room by kidnappers, I wouldn't just ignore it and move on. Not now, Fred. And then there's Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, the guy who got kicked out of Cobra Kai for being too slimy, and then wrote an op-ed titled How I Got Cobra Cancelled. Hawley not only ignored the harrowing video footage, but made himself comfortable while doing it.
Josh Hawley, who's made his disdain for this process abundantly clear in public comments, is doing the same thing in the chamber. All the senators have the option to use the gallery, the upstairs area, for seating for social distancing. Josh Hawley is the only one taking advantage of that opportunity. He's been sitting with his legs up on the seat in front of him, essentially reading non-related material.
Of course he was. Hawley is the richest kid in high school who, during the memorial assembly for the beloved librarian, loudly comments on the Playboy hidden in his science book. We will all miss Deborah's love of reading. Yowza, Joshy like. And then there was Fox News, which actually had the gall to cut away from the trial in the middle of the harrowing testimony to get to Jesse Waters and Jeanine Pirro.
You may have heard one man yelled, "No violence," and another responded, "It's too late for that."
Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Waters, along with Juan Williams, Dana Perino, Greg Gutfeld, and Judge Jeanine Pirro.
That's right. They cut off the impeachment trial. Usually these two are the ones getting cut off. At any time, you could ask Jesse Waters to blow into a breathalyzer, and the result would probably just say Natty Light. And I'm sure Janine's been kicked out of her share of Applebee's. All right, Jeanine, you've had enough. How dare you take away my keys? According to the Constitution, I'm entitled to as many Long Island iced teas as I want. And what was so urgent? Fox News felt justified in cutting away from the historic impeachment trial of a former president who incited a violent insurrection. What could possibly have been more important than the sanctity of our democracy?
Special report is up next with Brett.
Jesse, I'm here. I just can't seem to get rid of this filter. I'm here though. I'm not a bear.
I have to say, even in that screenshot, Jesse Waters still has the dumber face. Leave it to Fox News to ruin a fun meme. Can't we have fun things? This is like your dad singing the lyrics to WAP. But before they could get to the urgent meme content, the five spent time exploding at each other in an insane argument after Juan Williams correctly accused the rest of the panel of ignoring the impeachment trial.
This impeachment trial that you guys are all ignoring, I guess you're afraid of it because it's a reminder.
Don't mind Reed, Ron. Please don't mind Reed. Don't mind Reed.
Let me finish. No,
don't mind Reed, then. Don't read my mind with it.
There's no need. There's no need because I listened to all of this. So let me tell you.
Then how could you be so wrong? How could you be so wrong? If you listened, how could you be so wrong?
This trial to me is about whether or not Republicans want to close their eyes or they want to face the truth. And right now, let me tell you, facing the truth is the way that we solve. It's the way we bring the country together. Ignoring problems is never the way to solve.
You shouldn't be impugning our intentions, Juan. That's the problem.
You didn't say we are standing with these people.
I can listen. I can hear.
And then it goes into your brain and it comes out wrong.
Well, that is some high-level debate. I can't see without my glasses. Is that Lincoln and Douglas? A house divided against itself cannot stand. That's not what I said, Lincoln. Yeah, it is, Douglas. No, it's not. The words are going into your brain and coming out of your mouth wrong. Oh, yeah? Well, if the words are coming into my brain, they're coming out of your ass. Well, then I guess that means you're eating my ass words, Douglas. That's not what I said. Don't read my mind. I can feel you reading my mind, and I don't want you in there. Get out of my mind, Lincoln. It's been clear from the start who Trump was and what he stood for. Republicans knew it then, and they know it now. They made the same case Democrats are making now. They saw it, they warned us about it, and then they capitulated. And that's because they share Trump's goals. They're engaged in the same project. They agree with him. They saw that supporting him was the path to power, and they jumped on board, and they're willing to look away from any piece of evidence or tell any lie necessary to expunge their guilt, with one exception. There was one instance yesterday on Fox News where someone bravely stood up and told the truth.
I'm not a bear.
Thank you. This has been a closer look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help. Now more than ever, if you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask. We love you.